live. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Cesar Torres, the founder and designer of LED Queens Fitness Apparel, and I'm kicking off something really special today. I'm doing a series of interviews with LED fans. Yes, we're focused on fitness, but I think one of the most amazing aspects of our community, because my brand is focused on the LGBTQ community, is to see and learn about the lives of people who are focused on fitness and who happen to use our products. In the virtual studio of Skype/YouTube, I've got here Matt Thibert. He is a LED fan based out of Canada. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, really good. I'm so glad you're here. You're basically kicking off a whole new era for LED Queens. Let's just start with the beginnings. You're living in Canada. You found our brand, presumably through Instagram or one of those channels. But
Yep.
let's start with just how we would do this in real life. How do you identify? And can you tell us a little bit about what your life is like in Canada right now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am a gay man. So I came out a little bit later in life, around the age of 20-ish. So late bloomer, I guess you could say, but that's okay.
I was a late bloomer too. I came out at 21.
Oh, there you go. See? But yeah, so I'm up here in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, which is pretty much the southernmost part of Canada. We're known as the Florida of Canada, which is nice. So we've got beautiful weather here today. It's about 23 Celsius. So for the American crew out there, it's about 76 Fahrenheit.
Ooh, sweet.
And we've got some sun. So I was at work this morning and then came home and did some yard work because it's so nice out. And now I'm here chatting with you and pretty excited about it.
That's terrific. So let's go a little further. The thing that's amazing to me about each individual LED fan that I talk to on Instagram or sometimes Facebook or even just through email, because customers just send questions and thoughts through email. With you was obviously you, I think, tagged us originally on one of your posts where you had bought our stuff and you were wearing it and you looked amazing. We're actually going to put that up in a second here.
Thank you.
But what I was intrigued by was that as I looked at your Instagram, you talked often about making big changes in your life and transforming your health and your body. And so we caught you basically on the other end, where you're kind of really making great progress with that journey because visually, we're able to see so much on
Yes.
Instagram, and you look really great. Can you talk about how you got there? Because for all of us, I was a fat kid. I always talk about this. I was a fat kid in high school and even college, and it's always a bit of a struggle, but it's very different for each individual. So what's your story?
So I'm the opposite. I was always a skinny kid. My parents always talked about my high metabolism, and I was constantly on the move and always on the go. So up until about three and a half years ago, I'm about 6 foot and I weighed about 160 pounds. So I was rail thin, very little body fat, which in some cases is good, but also no muscle tone whatsoever. And so I had just met up with a new friend, actually, a girlfriend of mine who I just met at the time, and we hit it off. It was really funny. We'd never met each other before. We had so many acquaintances. We had so many people that we both knew, but we had never crossed each other's paths ever. And then finally we did, and we hit it off as friends. And she was actually going through her own transformation at the time. So she was a 300-pound woman, and she is now half the size that she was when I met her. So she was going through her own thing. We hit it off. She was getting married. That's why she was in this transformation herself. And then she wanted to invite me to her wedding. And so I said, sure, why not? But it was a beach wedding. And so I was like, well, you're going through this transformation for your wedding. And I said, you're going to invite me to a beach wedding where I need to wear some shorts and a nice top or something. So I need to start my own transformation because I don't want to be that little skinny dweeb on the beach when everybody else is looking all good. So about 3 years ago, I started on that journey, and my goal initially was just to put on some weight So I kind of tracked myself, and I went from 160 in May of 2017 to about 180 in January of 2018. So in a little over 6, 7 months, I had put on 20 pounds. Some of it muscle, some of it just trying to rapidly put on some
Yeah,
weight so that I
fat
had some
comes with it.
transformation.
Yeah, that's natural. Some
Yeah.
fat will come with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I had gotten up to about the 180 mark, and then I was like, all right, so now it's time to really tone up, and I don't want to be a pudgy person. So I that's when I really started to add in the cardio and just lifted as much weight as I could, so that I was really toning the muscle and keeping myself slender.
That's amazing. So you basically had a social support that already was
Yes.
was in place there as you went through that journey, because what you did is actually very challenging for most people to do. Most people kind of see the
Hmm.
results and they go, that's impossible for me, I can never look like that. But of course it's different when someone asks you, you go, oh, people ask me, they go, and I go, I don't look how I want to look yet, but
Right.
then
Yeah.
they tell me, they're like, but I wish I could just look the way you do now. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So for you, I would love to hear what was maybe the easiest habit or thing that got you there, something that was already part of how your personality is, and what was one of the most challenging aspects to overcome of your own psychology, your own habits. I mean, we all have that, but there's a barrier, and then
Yes.
there's like a river that flows. Which talk about those two.
So it's actually the same issue is for both. So it was work.
Oh,
So for me, being at work all day was very stressful. I run two businesses. I'm actually like an owner of my own two businesses. So that takes up a lot of my time. It's mentally draining, it's emotionally draining, it's stressful. And so I really needed an outlet. And so for me to go to work, I usually work days. So I would go to work from 8 till 3, come home right after work, and I knew that that was my time to decompress. So now's the time to, work out the stress, kind of get lost in the music and just, you know, work on myself and make sure that I'm staying healthy emotionally, mentally, and physically. So that was sort of my tracker. I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd work out. It was the pattern and the scheduling of it every single day is what allowed me to do it. The inhibition to working out was work, because owning your own business, you don't always get to keep that schedule, and sometimes you get called in, or somebody calls in sick and there's no one to cover them. Guess who has to go in to cover them? So it was both the purpose and the inhibition at the same time. But I just I used to beat up on myself for that, to be like, oh, I got called into work, now I can't work out. This is a failure. I'm not going to be successful at this. I'm never going to look the way I want to look. And then I just had to sort of change my mentality to say, you know what, life is going to get in the way. I'm not always going to be able to work 8 to 3 and come home to work out every single day and to eat perfectly every single day and to not have a glass of alcohol or anything like that. Like, you can't deny yourself the joys or whatever. You can go out on the weekend and not have to work out. Doesn't mean you maybe do an extra 15 or 20 minutes the next time you're on the elliptical or out for your run or whatever, then that's what it means. But I just had to sort of change my mentality to say, if work's going to sort of get in the way of all of this, then today's not the day that I work out. Don't beat up on myself for it. Tomorrow I'll just do an extra 10 minutes.
so if you were a superhero, and I'm very focused on superheroes because I've written a book series about a queer superhero.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
your superpower, I would say, is that you are able to basically balance this mega, like this magical power of like your responsibility for your job. Like it can be both the deadliest thing for you, but
Yeah.
it can also be the thing that saves you. So you're maybe more close to like the X-Men, sort of like Jean Grey. It's like,
Right.
her that power, like, can basically kill her, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Let's talk a little bit about that intersection of your identity, your gay identity, with fitness, and sort of we can touch a little bit on body image, but how do you think about that at your age? Do you mind if we talk about your age?
Yeah, I'm 36.
Yeah, you're 36. So how does that cross over? For some people, it's very positive. For some people, they have some stress and anxiety. But what I would love to have people walk away with on this stream and the podcast is to go, well, here's how Matt thinks about it in a way to feel very positive about that intersection. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm sort of at the point now where I work out not necessarily to please others, but to please myself. And I know that body image is a huge thing in the gay community. People are bashing on each other all the time, which isn't right, but I think it's going to happen no matter what. So I think if I could give one piece of advice, it would be, if you're going to start working out or you're going to start working on yourself, it has to be for yourself. It can't be for someone else. If we always were worrying about what everybody else thought of us, or we were trying to be perfect in somebody else's eyes, we would never get there. The goal is to make yourself happy. For me, it wasn't about making others happy. It was about looking in the mirror and going, you know what, I like the way I'm looking. It's about coming home from work and having that time to release and forget about everything that happened during the day. So I think at 36, not that I'm old, but I'm sort of beyond that point of where I'm so worried about whether or not the guy down the street thinks I'm hot. Like, I don't really care.
Bravo. I mean, that means you're basically working on your own personal development.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. Let's talk a little bit more about that. And this is specific to like Instagram and just how we live our lives. And especially now that prides are basically canceled, why leggings and how, you discovered my brand, but you're a similar person to me. I've been wearing spandex since I was a kid. And It's one of the reasons I design it now, and it's very superhero focused as well. But what makes you choose that, and does that also tie into some part of your like self-confidence and something that you're basically trying to express day by day?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, one, the comfort of leggings and your brand in general is quite one of the best and most comfortable that I've actually ever worn. So that helps.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, I like them to work out. It makes it easier to move. If you're wearing anything baggy or anything like that, sometimes it gets in the way of your motion or it can get caught on the weight. And,
or it rides
if
up.
You're really trying to focus on, if you're really trying to focus on maximizing your workout and that you're getting the right movement in order to get the muscle under the right tension, then you want to be able to move freely and easily. So that's kind of why I like wearing the tights to work out. I like the way they look in general. I mean, you don't have to be the perfect specimen of a man in order to wear them, which is fantastic. But again, that's everybody's own comfort level and confidence level. And for me, that was something that did help my confidence. It was, being able to put on a pair of tights was sort of empowering in a way. Yeah. To be like, yeah, I can wear these and I like the way I look and I like the way they feel and I don't care what anybody thinks, so I'm going to wear them.
Well, and that's awesome. And, this is the first time you and I have had a voice conversation because we usually just DM, it's customer to brand or whatever. Yeah. But I've mentioned this in many of my posts. And now that I have the podcast and these streams going, I can kind of unpack that story. But literally, there is a political element into how I launched this brand because the 1980s were my childhood, right? I'm just a little older than you, about 10 years older. And in the 80s, I was still a kid. I was like basically like 11, 12, 13, whatever. And at that time, there were these really powerful images of men wearing spandex and tights and leggings in a way that wasn't singled out as like, this is a gender bending thing or anything like that. Yep. And yet there was an undercurrent of homophobia that was so there. Like the reason I've revived those designs from the 1980s bodybuilders with the stripes is a way of saying, I want to reclaim this for us because a lot of the straight bodybuilders were wearing those in the 80s, but the environment and the culture of it was so homophobic. I'm like, well, this looks really, really, it's very masculine presenting, but it's also, it has colorful elements. And I thought, let's bring this into the 21st century for people who are truly proud of this, who can get into CrossFit bodybuilding, etc. And let's just kind of reclaim it like the way that you reclaim words. And I don't know if enough people know that about how I do it, but it's really important to me, and I think the customers pick up on it. So
yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I think you're absolutely right. When I was born in the 80s, but I certainly remember them, and spandex was a thing in the late 80s and early 90s, and it didn't matter if you were gay, straight, male, female, nobody cared. And then suddenly it became this thing that, you know, only gay men wear something like that. So I follow a lot of like bodybuilders and fitness people on Instagram, and some of them are gay, some of them are straight, and everybody's wearing spandex and tights. And I think, like I said, it's just an empowering thing. It's a range of motion thing, and the less we can make it political or gender based, the easier it's going to be to have everybody just be comfortable and wear them.
And to me, that's the long-term goal for this, because really, in terms of like the actual functionality and what it does for fashion, it's something that's existed forever. As long as people have been able to make clothes for themselves as a culture, we're talking like, you know, back to the earliest civilizations. This is just something we can do to highlight and make the body perform better. Male or female, doesn't matter. And it just, in the last 100 years, we've gotten caught up a lot on like, who is it for and your gender and whatever. But ultimately, this has been done many times. And I think if I remember my art history correctly and fashion history, tights were kicked off for men, you know, about 4 centuries ago. Yeah. So that's the original way they landed. Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. Okay. You mentioned you do your workouts, you work a lot, you're a really busy person, and you're basically, you know, you're business owner and entrepreneur because you have that mindset. To balance all this out, before COVID, were you doing your workouts at home, and what was the impact afterwards? So can you unpack that a little bit?
For sure. So I have almost always worked out at home. There was a period of time where I did get a gym membership, and I got a little bit of training. It was only 6 sessions, and it was really just to acclimatize myself to the machinery in the gym. And then I just ended up buying a set of weights, and I thought, you know what, I can do this at home. When I was at the gym, I was self-conscious, so I felt like people were looking at me. I felt like I wasn't performing as well as some of these bigger guys that were in the gym, the guys that I wanted to look like.
Yep.
But, you know, I couldn't at the time because I wasn't putting in the training and doing everything that I was supposed to do. So instead, I just felt more comfortable doing it at home. So for me, for COVID-19, it hasn't been that much of an issue because I was already working out at home anyway. But what I would say is, you know, I think I like to sort of be that example of the fact that you don't have to have a gym membership. You don't have to go to the gym every single day and lift weights and make all the crazy noises and whatever that these big, huge guys, like you don't have to do that. I work out at home. I have a pair of headphones. I pop those babies on. I put on the playlist that's, you know, really going to amp me up for whatever workout I'm doing. I have different playlists based upon whether I'm doing, you know, arms or chest or cardio or legs or whatever it might be. I've got a specific playlist because I know that works for me. And I think that's kind of at least what I would suggest to some people who are maybe just starting out, is to find, you know, something that motivates you while you're working out. It can get boring. A lot of the times I am doing the same workouts week after week after week. I don't really change my arm workout. My arm workout is my arm workout. So sometimes you have to get the right music to keep you motivated, or even change that playlist. I've flipped songs throughout the playlist, you know, change this one out. I don't like it. I notice that when I'm working out, I end up skipping that song anyway. So I'm like, oh, got to find a new song. So I'll take that one out of the playlist and put in a new one. But I think it's twofold. It's, you know, find what works for you, motivate yourself, and then, you know, you don't have to be at the gym in order for it to work.
I love that. You said it even better than I could ever say it. And here's the thing. You're kind of unique amongst the LED fans because most people have been working out in classes or gyms, and you basically went you had a through line right into just continuing to work out from home. So the question for you to wrap up is going to be a little bit different, and it's super fun. I'm literally like making up this format as I go, but
Okay.
for people to feel like that there's utility in this podcast and this stream, and to sort of get the imagination going on how they can do their setup at home, I would love for you to tell us what your gym setup is at home. And you can get as specific as you can, and there's no, whatever it is, it's literally like people are inspired by this. And then after that, I definitely want to hear like 2 power songs, like on your playlist right now, 2 songs that when you play those, you're like, fuck, I'm going to get this thing done. Okay. So let's go through your gym setup first.
Okay, so my gym setup is actually pretty basic. I have a basement in my house. So all I did was I went to a local hardware store, and I just bought that sort of 12 by 12 pieced together tile. So I bought enough to sort of make an area so that it was nice and cushiony. So I wasn't, because my basement's unfinished, so it's a concrete floor. So I wanted to make sure that I was comfortable. And basically, I just have a set of free weights that are adjustable, and they go from 10 pounds to 50 pounds.
Oh, that's what I got here. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I have that, and then I have an elliptical, and that is it.
Okay. So anybody who's watching this, Matt's Instagram is up. You can go check that out. We also, on the YouTube version of this, we have his 2 of his great customer images. He's wearing our tights, and he looks fantastic. So you can take a look at that and just go, this man did it basically with dumbbells. Okay, so that's amazing. And really, I mean, it's a lot of people are struggling right now because they don't know how to get started, and we're trying to help them with LED Queens. Like separately from this, we're releasing content that teaches them how to do that stuff. But that's fabulous. I just love that.
Eating healthy. Don't leave that out.
Well, actually, so let's go into that before we get to the power songs, because that's really important for me. And it's the first time I'm doing these for you folks, so I'm also trying to unpack my life for everybody. The thing that has been consistent for me in my 3-year transformation, because I've had a transformation as well. Mine started about 3 years ago. Is the consistency of my nutrition. I almost always track what I'm eating, how many calories, etc. But the thing that has saved me has been repetition. Like my breakfast tends to be the same, my snacks tend to be the same, and I vary like the spices and some techniques, but the consistency of those meals has really helped me lose fat and gain muscle. Matt, what's your secret?
Well, I was tracking. So if we go back to the beginning of my journey when I was trying to put the weight on, I was tracking. So back when I was in the gym and I had that trainer for 6 sessions, I told him that my goal was to put on 20 pounds of muscle. And he was like, you need to eat 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. Right. And I was like, I physically cannot fit that much food in my body. It is not possible. So I will tell you, I didn't eat that much. So I probably didn't journey quite as fast as I could have. But I did use a tracker at least to get to that point, just to sort of know what I was eating and to track my macros, as they like to say. You want to know what fats you're eating, what cholesterol, what sugar, what carbs, all that kind of stuff. So it gives you sort of that jump off point. But once you get familiar with it and comfortable with it, I sort of got rid of the tracker. I didn't really need it. If I decide to ever cut, so sometimes I try to, drop a couple pounds, that's when I tend to go back and use the tracker just to make sure that I'm cutting my calories appropriately. Because obviously, if you want to lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you eat. And sometimes you don't realize quite how many calories you're taking in.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I tend to use it mostly if I'm just trying to drop a couple pounds, but I only really used it for that first, 6 to 8 months when I was trying to put on that 20 pounds just to see where everything was going. But basically, and if you go to my Instagram, you'll see it. I do a lot of meal prepping for work. I work in a mall location. So there's always fast food and the food court and all that garbage that, if I ate that every single day, it wouldn't be good. But here's the thing, I'm not going to lie. I don't not eat that stuff. I still have fast food. I still have drinks on the weekend. you can't cut it out completely unless you're literally trying to be a bodybuilder in shows, which is not my goal. So, I still like to have fun and go out with my friends and eat crap once in a while and have some drinks and party it up and all that kind of stuff. But it's just in moderation and making sure that, when I'm meal prepping, it's stuff I make everything myself. None of it is pre-made. And then snacking appropriately, having healthy snacks, staying away from the chips and the cookies as much as possible. But, it's just stuff like that. And I find that being busy, and I'm very much a time management person and a schedule person. So I figure if, I can sort of plan out my meals for 3 or 4 days, as long as I can keep doing that, then I should be okay. So basically on Sunday, it's plan out my meals till Wednesday, and then Wednesday, it's plan out my meals till Sunday. So I don't try to do the whole week at once, because for me, I feel like that's just overwhelming and too much to do. So I kind of just take it in little chunks and make sure that, I'm getting a lot of chicken and lean ground beef and vegetables and all that good stuff.
If you're a really busy person, you sound just about as busy as me. What goes on over here? But if we had double the extra time of in the world to do more, I would love to bring you in. Even I would love a podcast where we just talk about meal prep discussion, because all those little tidbits of what days do you do it? When do you go shopping? When do you switch from white rice to brown rice? That stuff, I could listen to a podcast about that all day long. So if you ever just suddenly have all this free time, I'm gonna bring you back for more episodes. Right. Okay, let's wrap up with something that's really important to me, because a lot of my designs come from inspiration from electronic music. I've named products after synthesizers and famous genres or whatever. But for you, what are your 2 songs at the moment in your playlist where you're just I hear this shit and I just go? And it's a queer audience, so nobody's gonna be surprised. Yeah.
Well, right now, so I've really been trying to work on my cardio a little bit more. And being on the elliptical all the time, I'm not a runner. I don't like to run outside. I get shin splints really bad, so it's not my thing. I like to be on the elliptical. So it gets pretty boring because I'm not moving anywhere and I'm just looking at a wall the whole time, because that's the only space I have in my basement. So it's really important to find the right songs. So right now, I'm gonna give it a little throwback, because these 2 songs have really been. They have a good rhythm. That's how I'm going to preface it. I'm going to say they got a really good rhythm. They keep my pace going. Mm-hmm. And so they're both by the Venga Boys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
90s, yeah, 90s power.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I like the song. It's called Up and Down. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is Boom, 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 I Want You in My Room.
Okay, that is brilliant. I wish it was easier to bring in copyrighted music into YouTube, because right now I would be we're going to close out with that song. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, that's the stuff that matters. I'm going to share mine because mine changes quite often, mm-hmm. but literally because I grew up in the 80s and because I live alone and my home office has always been here. So I work and live out of my home studio in Chicago. I have my photography studio. A lot of the photos that people see for LED Queens, they're shot in my studio, which is converted room. Oh shit, Amazon's here. Whatever. I have contactless delivery. In any case, the song that's really making me feel like I can handle all this COVID-19 life is the music video and the song for Pleasure Principle by Janet Jackson. Because in the video, she's in that warehouse by herself and she's just doing her thing. That's the song that just gets me through every single workout. Right now, my life is a lot like yours in the sense that every workout is done at home and I'm only using a pair of adjustable dumbbells and bands. And I'm actually amazed at how much I'm able to continue, because luckily I had a coach and a trainer who showed me how to do all this stuff. And I just converted all those workouts into workouts that I'm doing right now 5 to 6 days a week. And I love it, but I didn't think I could do it. And I wish we could have brought you on even earlier in the COVID outbreak, because you are unique. You're the first person I've heard where you're I'm doing all this stuff. I look great, making progress with dumbbells.
That's right.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for being here. People know how to find you. You've helped us kick off this first series of LED fans, like visiting the channel. And I'm glad that you could join us.
I'm happy that you asked me to come.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to